At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Ranked #1 in innovation for 10 consecutive years and #2 among public universities for employability. ASU isn't just ahead of the curve, it's creating new paths to success. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online, that's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
What they discovered upon their arrival was almost unspeakable.
We thought all evil in some form or another. I'm not guilty.
The dead won't bother you. It's the living you gotta worry about.
If I couldn't keep them there with me whole, at least I felt that I could keep their skeletons.
Hello and welcome to the Bad Taste Crime Podcast. I'm Vicky.
I'm Rachel.
We're back again.
Oh my God.
Welcome back.
Hi. In.
If this is your first time listening, a special hello to you.
Can we take your coat?
No.
Shoes off.
We don't have a coat room. You wear it.
Yeah.
In case you have to leave. In case we throw you out.
Skirty in your lap.
Yeah. Oh, we got an exciting episode. I was just talking about this was accidentally kind of long for me.
It's such a good topic.
It is. Thank you. We were just talking about how advanced I was as a child.
Goodbye.
Yeah. I was never the kid that was in the what did they call them? Like the special classes.
Oh, like gifted.
Gifted. Yeah, I was never in like the gifted classes.
I was in that. It was overrated.
I did honors English.
Yeah, me too.
But I didn't do humanities. I think I got offered to go into humanities, but it sounded like way too much work.
That was my exact thought process.
I was like, so I did honors English and honors math, but I wasn't in like the gifted program.
It was overrated. They just do brain teasers.
It is, but still. I just was lazy. I was very, very lazy.
I still am.
But I found my niche now in my adult years in true crime. That's what my gift is.
Yeah.
To you.
Oh my God, thank you. Thank you for the gift.
All right, we got a great show for you guys today. But first, let's head over to the newsroom.
Fit to breathe, our food is unfit to eat. We sit watching our TVs while some local newscaster tells us that today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad.
This week, our news comes from Pataskala, Ohio.
Love it.
Pataskala. This is actually something from Christmas Day, but just had a recent update. So on Christmas Day, 74-year-old Rebecca Westergaard was found dead outside of her home. She was on her way to go meet with her family and she didn't arrive, so they did a welfare check and police discovered her body on her property. She had died from blood loss caused by injuries inflicted by livestock.
What?
Yes. So what happened is on a neighboring property, some pigs had escaped. And sort of like attacked this woman.
Oh my God.
And she died from blood. And she was, like I said, she's 74. So, you know.
Okay.
It's.
Couldn't get away.
I know. I say that as my parents are nearing that age. I'm not saying that's old, but like, you know, if you get knocked over, you don't recover as easily.
Yeah.
So that's these pigs had escaped from a neighboring property.
God.
They originally did not file any charges, but then in January, the pig's owner got charged with 1 count of animals at large, which is a misdemeanor.
Animals at large.
I know. This is all this animal law that I didn't even realize was a thing. Just this last week of April, they were ordered to pay, they pleaded no contest, and then they were ordered to pay a $200 fine. They also found out that since this incident, the pigs have been euthanized. They were just euthanized at the end of March at the request of the Westgard family. So the victim's family. There weren't any felony charges. They say this one has been kind of difficult, one, because it was so brutal, because
Right.
somebody died, but also it was difficult navigating the law because there are very clear, in Ohio, there's very clear law in the books that involve dogs and like domesticated animals,
okay.
but they don't necessarily apply to farm animals and
Right.
pigs specifically.
I
So
guess it is a different classification.
Correct,
You can't
yeah.
really train a
right,
sheep,
right. Well, yeah.
you
No.
know?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Right, exactly. So I found that case kind of interesting because, I mean, ultimately they got off with a $200 fine. You know,
Right.
do I think that they intentionally let their pigs out to go attack somebody? No, I don't think that's what happened. I
Kill
think they just
Wilbur.
escaped. Yeah, and
Bring back
right. and in the court system, they, you know, were held accountable.
Right.
But $200
know,
just
for
seems like
somebody's
such.
life.
But at the same time, like I said, they voluntarily euthanized the
Right.
pigs
And they
at the
pled
request
no contest, so it's
Yeah.
not like they were like, nuh-uh.
No. And I do think, obviously, by euthanizing the pigs, that is a lot of money that you are out in livestock.
Absolutely.
You know, it might not be monetary, but like,
Yeah, I don't blame them, but it does seem like I wish there was something more that could be done.
right. I know. It's
That's
just a very
crazy.
interesting case. Yeah.
Poor lady. That's so scary.
I know.
Distant oinks.
We are going to move on to Netflix and Kill, where this week we are talking about Till Murder Do Us Part, Soaring v. Haysom, which is a crazy story. I've been putting off watching this for a while, just not for any specific
just
reason.
wasn't
It
the
just
right
like
time.
was on my list.
I do the same thing.
And then finally I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to watch this. I'm really glad that I did because the story is kind of nuts.
Oh my God.
Have you seen this one yet or no?
I've seen like the previews. For
Yeah.
it. Like as soon as you said the name, I was like, oh yeah. But
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know.
So it talks about a 1985 double homicide of Nancy and Derek Haysom. The people charged in this murder were their daughter Elizabeth and her boyfriend at the time, Jens Soering, who was a
God.
German. He was a German national. She was, I believe she was British.
Okay.
But her parents who were very successful, lived in the United States. He was going to school here. He was like incredibly smart. And this takes place in Virginia. So they were murdered. And then they started investigating. Originally, they thought it might have been a third party. I'm sorry, Elizabeth Haysom is a Canadian citizen.
Okay.
But she has a British accent.
Yeah.
Not like fake British like Dorit Kemsley, but like like her parents were actually
Right. She's not
British,
giving
yeah.
you like the Madonna inflection.
And Jens Soering, like I said, he was German. His father was a diplomat. He was going to the University of Virginia where the two of them met and started this relationship. A lot of it happening via letters, which is interesting because there's a lot of stuff that comes up in the letters.
Ooh. Gotta love that physical evidence.
Yeah. So Elizabeth was not initially a suspect, but they started questioning her and questioning Jens, and they're talking about these alibis. And then finally, as they're trying to question them, Jens and Elizabeth flee to Europe, where they're like trying to find a way to make money to stay over there. They're doing some fraud things. Yeah,
great.
like I think like check fraud type of things.
Love that.
And were finally actually arrested in England in 1986.
They were like, guys, don't do fraud here.
Yeah. So once they were arrested, Jens confesses to the murder, later saying his confession to the murder was essentially a bid for him to go back to Germany because Germany doesn't have the death penalty.
Right.
And they were like, we don't, and even Germany was like, we don't want to extradite him back to the US unless you can guarantee us that he will not get the death penalty, which they couldn't for a long time.
Oh, tricky.
He also was like, I'm very in love with Elizabeth. I wanted to confess to take all of the credit for this so that she wouldn't get in trouble. Meanwhile, Elizabeth is like,
Selling him up the river.
she's like, I told him that I wanted my parents dead, but
I didn't think he would do it.
But I didn't. I encouraged him to do that, and she did plead guilty to accessory to murder.
Wow.
But she has always said, but I'm not the one who was there doing the
Whatever,
murdering.
Elizabeth.
Both of them got 90 years I'm sorry, Elizabeth got 90 years and Soren got life in prison.
Okay.
But then Jens is coming out and talking about his innocence. He's actually in this documentary.
Interesting.
Yeah, and there's DNA evidence that has come out. Like, there's evidence after all of this has gone down that's come out since, and like their stories keep changing. Like, it's kind of wild. And in November 2019, due to all of this stuff, the Virginia State Parole Board granted both of them parole. They didn't say that either one was innocent, but they had both been serving time on good behavior. There was this question of like, they really wanted to parole Jens, but they didn't feel like they could parole him without paroling her.
Oh, I see.
And
what a twisty case.
And ultimately were both deported. Because they're not U.S. citizens. So once they were paroled, they deported them back to Elizabeth went back to Canada. Jens went back to Germany, where he was like greeted. The Germans very much are like, he did not do this.
What?
And so he was sort of greeted. He was greeted by like the German police, and they were like, "Welcome home. You're here, free man." Like, yeah, which could be. I mean, there's very compelling evidence that he didn't do this.
Okay.
But they're both banned from the United States now. So it is just like wild. Like, the story has so many twists and turns, and like I said, because of the changing stories and like it is just like, it's really kind of weird. I think this is gonna be one of those cases where you're probably never gonna know what actually happened. But definitely worth a watch. It's only 4 episodes. It's on Netflix.
Crazy.
Yeah, definitely check it out.
Yes.
Some of it is subtitled because some of it is in like German.
I love that.
Yes, and
I have
Jens,
to watch everything with subtitles.
Jens is doing his interviews obviously from Germany, and I believe Elizabeth was contacted, but she pretty much does not speak about the crime, and she's even gone to great lengths to make sure that when he is speaking about the murders, that he does not speak about her. Like, she had her attorneys go after him.
Wow.
With like cease and desist and stuff. So there's times where he's like, well, I can't comment on that because I'm not allowed to talk about.
I don't know.
Yeah. So she has very much wanted to stay out of the press and not do any interviews, but he's out here being like, look, I'm here to talk about people wrongfully convicted. So
he's like, girl, they caught me. I can't do fraud for money. I have to do interviews.
Right.
What do you want me to do?
Yeah. And he has since become like an advocate in Germany. So like, it's just a very interesting case. It's just a very interesting case. Highly recommend it. Glad that I watched it.
Yes.
And that is Till Murder Do Us Part, Soren v. Haysom. Check it out.
Love it.
It's that part of the show where you say content may not be appropriate for all listeners. There's a lot. I mean, I'm definitely going to be talking about murder. We're going to be talking about abuse. Yeah. Abusive relationships. Big part of mine. So if any of that is triggering to you, maybe this one's not for you.
I've got mine. There's some children in peril, for sure. Definitely some murder, definitely some shootout type situations. Yeah.
So today I wanted to look at some hostage situations.
Such a good topic.
Because these come about for a number of reasons. Normally it's a desperation ploy.
Yeah.
But I mean, you've heard of them in bank robberies, in war zones, in robberies gone wrong, as revenge plots. I mean, there's like... these hostage situations come up in anything. Like, it could be anything. It's not like one driving factor.
It's like, oh, what do I do now? Well, I guess I'll just take a person.
Right. It's the only bargaining chip you got, pretty much. So I wanted to look at some of those. And we are going to start off with a man named Joseph C. Palczynski. What a character this guy is. Oh, no. What a character. My God.
I'm ready.
So I tried to find some information about his early life because it is, with some of the mental health stuff, like kind of crucial.
Right.
But in a lot of it like contributes to why some of his eventual crimes are so heinous. But there isn't actually too much about how he grew up because it was pretty normal. There's an interesting article from Boston University that does provide some insight, however. So according to this article, Palczynski came from a loving household that didn't have any abuse whatsoever. Like, I mean, it was a very average upbringing. But at some point in his teenage years, they described Palczynski as, quote, suddenly turning violent and unpredictable just days after a severe head injury.
Oh, I was literally thinking, I'm like,
Yeah.
I wonder if he played sports. Could he
Yeah,
have
yeah.
gotten a head injury? Head injury.
Yeah. And the family has definitely been open about saying this really, his demeanor and personality changed a lot after this head injury.
Yep.
What happened? I couldn't really find specifically
Right.
like what happened, but it
Could've
happened.
anything.
The family also did, after this happened, take him to be evaluated, and he was hospitalized for a period of time. While he was there, the mental health facility began treating him for bipolar disorder, including trying a lot of medications and combinations of medications. For people with mental health struggles, they know like the right cocktail is tricky
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
is a process to find something that works for you. And this would have been in like the 80s.
That's what okay.
Yeah. So it would have been in the end of the 70s into the 80s. So like they were not, I mean, the drugs that they were throwing at mental health things were crazy. Like it was, it was not the right stuff and has been honed more nowadays. But none of these like cocktails or medications or whatever really seem to work. And even if they did, it doesn't seem like he was that interested in taking medication.
Okay.
And especially with bipolar, like that is something you really need to do.
Yeah.
You really, when you can find the right cocktail, like
balance your chemicals.
Yes. So there's also this fantastic 2-part series about Palczynski from the Dart Center for Journalism and Trauma that details some of the early life stuff. And honestly, most of my research is from that.
Where did you watch that at?
This great. It's actually it's a 2-part article series.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Really, really interesting. I'll definitely link it in the show notes.
Please do.
So Palczynski was described as being quite the ladies' man, with Dart saying, quote, he had GQ good looks, or had GQ looks, a buff body, an expensive sports car, money to burn, and a questionable past that clung to him like cologne.
Sploosh.
Phrasing. So he is often described as this kind of like playboy, but he had this dark past he didn't talk about, which made him mysterious.
Oh my God,
and
I can
like,
fix him.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, been there. That is, At this time, he was working as a lifeguard, and he was very much like, as one Jax Taylor might say, he was the number one guy in the group. He was, you know what I mean? He was
alpha.
like, he was kind of like, there was this group of guys that I'll hang out with, like, he was kind of the leader, you know?
Wow.
Yeah. Everyone thought he was the cool guy. The cool guy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Christ.
But it wasn't just his looks that attracted the young ladies. Palczynski seemed to be a romantic too and would love bomb women with like flowers and horseback riding and picnic lunches and endless compliments. It was all so romantic. It was so romantic. Palczynski's first big offense came after he began dating 15-year-old Amy Gearhart.
No.
Palczynski was a senior. He would have been about 18, 19 at this time. And the two dated for about 5 months. During this time, there were things that were pretty obvious red flags, despite the polite front that he would put on for Amy's parents, which he did this a lot. Like, he'd present one face to the people who mattered, but behind closed doors, he was a totally different person.
Which is totally, I mean, not to generalize, but that does seem to be something that bipolar people are very good at.
Yeah, like the masking.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Until they aren't anymore. You know what I mean? Until it's like, which we'll find out.
Yup.
We will. Spoiler alert.
We're on the way there.
It doesn't always work. Yeah. So the red flags. Okay. At some point, Amy had discovered this stash of guns Palczynski kept under his bed.
Concerning.
A little bit. There also been times where he had talked about having two personalities, where he's like, I have two personalities inside me.
God.
You know what I mean? Like that kind of.
Ew.
Yeah. which
Heard that one before.
seems just like you're being deep when really he's talking about his mental illness.
Two wolves.
It's like, damn, I thought you were just being deep, but
Yeah,
actually,
really. Oh, this was serious.
yeah, no, you were trying to tell me something.
My frontal lobe is not formed because I'm 15.
15, yeah. Then one night in July 1987, Amy was hanging out with some kids in Ocean City while she was on vacation with her family. It was like this group of kids, they had gotten ice cream. They were just like
Okay.
hanging out in a parking lot on the beach. You know what I mean?
Very cute.
Just as she was feeding another boy a bite of ice cream. Out of nowhere, Polchinski shows up.
Oh, God.
She's on vacation with
Right.
her family.
How did he?
Shows up, knocks her to the ground, begins beating her while everybody else is like trying to intervene. They call the police. The police show up and scared that he might do something again. Amy doesn't really say anything. And this is again from the Dart Center quote. Meanwhile, Polchinski calmly told the officers he was looking for his watch and ring, which he had lost in the parking lot. So police are like,
He's like, I'm just here looking for something.
yeah, he's like, sorry, she fell while we were
the
looking
blood
for this.
all over my fists? Don't even worry about it.
Yeah. So they leave, thinking everything's fine. They're like, this is
Fuck
fine.
you.
80s police.
Great police work.
Then Polchinski, they leave. Polchinski led Adam and another boy that was with them down to the beach. He was like forcing them to hold hands, like pushing them forward. They walked toward the Delaware line. Polchinski was screaming about Amy ruining his life. And when they arrived at the fence at the line, he started threatening the teens that he would break their legs. The boy somehow manages to escape and he runs for help and leaving Annie alone. Polchinski continues threatening to kill her, threatening to kill her family, but somehow Amy was able to break free and she heads towards this group of men who were fishing.
Okay.
Telling them what had happened. By now she has obvious marks and bruises and everything. But again, Polchinski goes up. He calmly talks his way out. He's like, we just got into an argument.
Oh my
like,
God.
just got a little heated.
It's giving Jeffrey Dahmer.
That will come up.
Oh my
That will
God.
come. Yeah. I think I say the same thing in my notes. Like very Jeffrey Dahmer-esque.
Absolutely.
Yeah. He's like, if it'll make you feel any better, like we need to talk this out. This is our relationship. We need to talk this out. Also, they're teenagers, right? They're like, if it'll make you feel better, we're gonna talk it out, but I'll go stand under that street light so you can have a clear view of like, you can see that I'm not doing anything. We're just talking whatever.
Oh my God, this guy sucks.
Yeah. So they go up. He has this period of like regret. Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Baby,
I love you,
so
baby. I'm so
sorry.
sorry. Yeah. That, which happens a lot.
Yep.
And
Love bombing.
at some point after this, presumably Amy returns back to her where her parents were staying, and she was taken to the hospital where they found contusions of the left eardrum, lacerations and swelling on the cheek and nose, contusion on the right eye, and that hemorrhaged, and bruised ribs.
She's just a baby.
Yes. Yeah. And at her mother's urging, Amy decides to press charges.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Good.
I will say the amount of times people decide to go follow through and press charges in this story is incredible.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Good.
Yeah. It's great if it works.
Right. Well, yeah, I know.
Okay. So she presses charges. Vacation ends. Amy goes back to school and discovers that Polchinski is now dating somebody new. 16-year-old Kimberly.
Girl.
Shortly after they start dating, she gets back. She realizes he's dating this girl, Kim. Kim comes to Amy and asks for advice after Polchinski had given her a black eye. Amy told her, get a restraining order, file a police report.
Yeah,
because this guy is fucking crazy. And it sounds like that's exactly what she did. Again, from the Dart Center, quote, from a charging document filed by Kimberly's mother, October 18th, 1987, Joseph C. Polchinski searched through Kim's bedroom without permission when she was in the shower. While searching, he found birth control pills. The discovery of these pills made Joseph very angry because he did not want her taking them. As a result, he began to slap Kim several times in the face with both open hand and a backhand, resulting in a black eye and bruising of the right and left cheekbones. After a series of slaps in the face, Joseph then punched Kim in the stomach, knocking her to her knees. He continued to threaten Kim, stating that if she didn't do what he said, he would do it again. End quote.
Wow.
That's from the police report.
What a piece of shit.
The other police report that was filed in 1988 said, quote, Joseph pulled Kimberly into the bathroom at his house owned by his he was living with his grandmother at the time, stating that he wanted to have sex with her. When she refused, he became very angry and very forceful. Joseph punched her with a closed fist, causing multiple bruises along Kim's breastbone, then exited the bathroom, went into a closet, and got a razor blade. He then proceeded to threaten Kim, saying, if you don't come here and talk to me, I'll beat you some more, whether my grandmom is here or not.
Oh,
Unquote.
my God.
Yeah. So this is like behind closed doors when he's not in front of parents. This is what's happening.
He's an animal.
Yes. It's the other side of him.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
The other wolf.
The wolf. The inside wolf, not the puppy you see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he was
My
like
dark and twisted mind.
incredibly abusive.
Yeah, very violent.
Incredibly abusive. And when he was like doing these beatings, it seemed like he liked to punch them in the chest, like in the breastbone. That's a really common thing that comes up a lot, where he's just like punching them in the chest.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awful.
Yeah. Yeah. He's terrible.
Fuck this
He's
dude.
he's a piece of shit.
Yeah, I don't like him.
No. Good instinct. That's a great instinct. So Kim's charges were the first to be tried, and Palczynski received 2 years of supervised probation. This was followed shortly by Amy's charges that were going to trial in January 1989, but he knew, like with these other charges on Kim's stuff, that it was not going to be good for him. So he tried to plead guilty, not guilty by reason of insanity.
Oh my God, whatever.
But a psychiatrist found that he was fit to stand trial, and Palczynski was ultimately sentenced to 4 years in prison. Of that 4 years, he served 2, which included an escape attempt at some point.
Oh, and they were just like, you scamp, get back in there.
He did get extra, I think he got sentenced to probation on that specific, like
That's
on the
so
escape
dumb.
charges.
That's crazy.
Because later he violates that. But it's like it's not that, like the Kim Amy stuff. It's like the escape attempt probation that he violated later.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think he just got probation for that. But
That's crazy.
So they let him out after 2 years. Palczynski was released in April 1991 at the age of 22 and returned to living with his mom and his stepdad. Great. They are very supportive throughout this whole thing.
Oh, great.
Kind of giving him whatever he wants.
Awesome.
Yeah. There was a bit of tension in the house because his parents were like not totally down with him continuing to date high school age girls.
What a couple of jerks.
I can't believe it.
Wow.
But it wasn't going to be their problem for very long because in August, Palczynski moves into an apartment with 2 other roommates and starts dating a girl named Sharon, who was 17 years old. Yeah.
That's too young.
Yes, he was 22.
Ew.
Yeah. It wasn't long before the assistant principal of Sharon's school was asking him not to trespass on the grounds to see her. But his ugly temper reared its head again, and Palczynski attacked Sharon on school grounds. This is another excerpt from the charging document from November 1991. Quote, I believe this is Sharon's statement. Quote, we were arguing in front of the school. I proceeded into the school. He came running after me. He pushed me up against the wall. I pleaded with him not to hit me, but the next thing I knew, I was on the ground screaming. He has also threatened to kill threatened my parents to kill them and me and leave me living to suffer. He said if he goes to jail, he will kill me or get someone to hurt me. He has gotten people to come to my house before. This is not the first time he has hurt me, but before he only pushed me and pulled me by my hair.
Oh my God.
Unquote.
This poor girl.
I know.
Like terrified.
Yeah. So Palczynski's arrested, released on bail, ordered not to contact Sharon, but knowing, again, he's got these priors now. He was under threat of going back to jail. He really didn't want that. Palczynski repeatedly calls and threatens to kill Sharon if she doesn't drop the charges.
Yeah, of course.
It's like, please drop them. Please drop them.
And she's like, no.
But I love you. Please drop them.
Yeah, really.
Like crazy. And it does seem like he intended to act on these threats too, because Palczynski bought an Inland M1 30 caliber rifle from a pawn shop and told his friends that he was planning to shoot up Sharon's school.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm just amazed he has friends.
I know. But
What a dick.
But it sounds like his friends are kind of delinquents also.
Yeah.
Because these are the people he gets to talk into like harassing people while he's in jail.
And they obviously weren't like, hey, police, he's planning on doing all of these crimes. They were like, haha, you're so cool.
And who
dude.
knows if he may have even like if they had something they needed taken care of, they'd be like, well, we can call Joe.
Yeah.
And he'll help us out because he's a little unstable, you
Gross.
know. I know.
I think I've met these guys.
So Sharon reports all of this harassment to the police, which results in additional charges.
Good.
And Palczynski was arrested a second time for all of this, and this time he was denied bail. Staff at the jail found some of Palczynski's behavior concerning, and they send him for a psych eval. This came back showing bipolar mood disorder and depression, something he probably already knew, it seems like. But after only 2 days at the facility, Palczynski escaped and went on the run with ID cards stolen from a friend.
Dude, you got to stay there. That's what prison is.
I mean, it was a mental health facility.
Well,
but
still.
Yes, I
Dang.
know. Like a high security one, but still.
Yeah, he was like, bye.
Now a fugitive, Palczynski turns up a month later in January 1992 in Idaho, where he was accused of assaulting a 15-year-old girl and threatening to kill her brother.
Oh.
During the investigation, police in Idaho were contacted by police in Maryland saying they thought that Palczynski was in the area. He was likely armed and dangerous, which leads to this standoff with police. Palczynski barricades himself inside an apartment. He's threatening to shoot people in the nearby parking lot and shoot himself. The standoff lasts 16 hours. A SWAT team used tear gas to apprehend him and returned him to Maryland to stand trial for assaulting Sharon.
This guy just has zero impulse control.
Literally.
He just does whatever.
Which is why I think a lot of hostage situations happen, because it's like, oh shit, yeah.
What do I do now?
Yeah, guess this is it. Guess this is the plan. Yeah. So that happened. Now, again, Palczynski's legal team took the stance that he was not guilty by reason of insanity, and he was sent to the Federal Correctional Institution in Virginia for a month-long mental health evaluation.
Okay.
But the entire time, he was playing the system this whole time. Again, from the Dart Center, quote, in the course of his evaluation, Palczynski told the federal psychologist that he had illegally purchased the gun at the pawn shop to kill the ninjas who were trying to kill him. When he cut his wrist twice, once deeply enough to require stitches, he told the psychologist a voice told him to do it.
Whatever.
Later, Palczynski would boast to girlfriends that he had cut himself to fool the system.
Yeah.
End quote.
Right.
So he knew.
Yeah.
He knew what he was
liar.
doing. Yeah. But all of this seemed to convince the people at the facility.
They're like, whoa, no way.
Because he was diagnosed with paranoid type schizophrenia and was found not guilty on federal weapons charges. Yeah. However, he was required to undergo mandatory treatment at a government facility and makes a full recovery 15 months later.
Amazing.
From the thing he definitely does not have.
Right.
They're like, oh my God, it's a miracle.
He's like, yeah, I never had it in the fucking first
You don't hear voices anymore? That's wild.
He's like, oh yeah, I forgot I told you I do
We
that.
cured your schizophrenia. Because that's a thing. I know.
I'm literally
I know.
so mad.
Oh, don't worry. There's more.
Oh, great.
There's more. Yes. Remember I told you this was accidentally really long?
He's so crazy.
Yeah. So Palczynski shows up again in 1995 when he, at 27 years old, begins dating 17-year-old Michaela Osborne.
God damn it.
Now, Michaela also has a daughter, and Palczynski seemed well put together, polite. He really steps into this dad role. He seems to really care about her child. But again, there's these red flags that Michaela's dad, Gary, notices during their relationship. Palczynski seemed controlling. And on more than one occasion, Gary had noticed him hiding in the bushes outside of their house to spy to see if Michaela was doing the things that he told her not to do.
Oh, no.
And they talk about things like smoking cigarettes, taking birth control. He's just creeping in the bushes to watch her.
I would have turned the hose on.
Yeah.
Get out of my fucking yard.
Yeah. And he caught him more than once.
Yeah.
More than once. He So after this, Michaela, or around this time, Michaela started coming home with bruises. And when she was questioned about them, it was revealed that Polchinski had lied about his age. He'd originally said he was 23, not 27, which is kind of a big difference.
Big difference.
And Michaela claimed she had gotten the bruises after falling from a ladder.
Babe.
I know. Gary eventually has enough. He tells Polchinski to leave his house. He's like, don't come back. This results in a physical altercation, and Gary ended up in the hospital with 4 broken ribs and a split lip that had to get stitches.
Wow.
Then that Christmas, Michaela and Polchinski spent time with both of their families, like did the whole holiday family rotation. And she was like, I'm kind of tired. I think I just want to go stay at my dad's house instead of going back with Polchinski to his apartment. She's like, I kind of just want to stay at my dad's house. I'm really tired. Well,
I'm sure he loved that.
Yeah.
He was like, go ahead, babe.
Yeah. Whatever you want. It's fine. No. They start arguing, and Polchinski escalates things to a violent confrontation, choking Michaela and slamming her head against the wall. In defense, Michaela scratches his face, but it draws blood and bleeds onto the sweatshirt that she's wearing, which then turned into Polchinski demanding she removed this stain. She's like frantically trying to remove this blood stain from it. It sounded like a brand new like white crew neck type of thing. She can't get it out. She's like frantic.
Cold water.
When she failed to remove it, he beat Michaela. He's spewing threat after threat about killing her family. So she stays at, this is all happening in his apartment.
Right.
She stays there. The next morning, she begs Polchinski to let her go to work. She's like, I'm the breadwinner. You need to let me go to work. So Polchinski takes Michaela to work, watches from his car to make sure she's staying there, and was there for a while. And then he finally leaves. But when he leaves, Michaela takes the opportunity. She goes back to her father's house, and they immediately call police.
Good.
And because Polchinski was still on probation,
oh, thank goodness,
he gets arrested immediately. Now, from jail, Polchinski harasses Michaela. He's like, you need to get your dad to drop these charges.
This poor girl.
Because, again, these are minors. So, like, the parents are the ones filing charges in a lot of these cases.
Your dad's just trying to come between us.
Right. She's like, he's like, you need to convince your dad, drop these charges. When that didn't work, he instead turned to another teenage girl that he was dating behind Michaela's back.
Stop it.
17-year-old Lisa Anderson. Yeah. He was out here fucking everybody.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. She falls in love with this man who she thinks is 22. But when he gets sent to jail, she like finds out he gets sent to jail to await trial. She becomes hopelessly devoted to him. It starts as cutting class in high school to like take his phone calls because he would call it all hours a day. And finally she drops out of high school to spend as much time as she can with him at the jailhouse. On visits and going back and forth visiting.
Where are your parents?
She was living with like a friend of his.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Polchinski took these opportunities to be his normal abusive self. She'd show up and he'd just like be insulting her the entire time and be like, but I'm sorry, babe, I really love you. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It's just, I'm really stressed out because I'm in jail. Like very
stressed because of my own actions.
Classic abusive relationship. Yeah. Little did Lisa know that he had hatched a scheme to attempt to intimidate Gary into dropping the charges, and she was a key part of that. So in April 1996, Polchinski convinced Lisa to file false charges against Gary, claiming that he had threatened to blow up her house if she testified in Polchinski's favor.
Oh my God.
And she lied about her age because she is a minor. She lied about her age. Nobody verified her age when she filed these because she technically can't file charges as a minor.
Right.
She was like, yeah, he threatened to blow up my house. So Gary gets arrested 9 days later for making bomb threats and obscene comments over the phone. This happens 3 more times with her sister also, Lisa Anderson's sister, being one that filed false charges twice.
What?
Yeah. to be like, he just keeps calling us to blow us up, and they keep going back and just arresting him.
And he's like, please.
Yeah, but despite all of this, he refuses to drop the charges.
Good.
All of these charges were against Gary. So he kept going in and having to post bail and going in and having to post bail. But eventually, Lisa's sister admits that these were all false charges, and they were all eventually dropped. Gary does sue them, both of them. And so this is all kind of happening in the background. In the midst of all of this, Palczynski pleads guilty to battery and witness intimidation and receives a suspended sentence. Released. Boom.
What?
He's out.
Why?
This is what I'm saying. Like, people are actively filing police reports and
Right,
stuff.
and the police
it
are like,
doesn't
he seems
fucking
like such a
matter.
scam.
He just keeps getting out.
Go on, get out of here.
It's now it's the 90s, I guess. To say it's the 80s, but no, this is the 90s. Okay.
I am fuming.
There's more. There's more. Palczynski moves on to his next relationship. 16-year-old Stacy Culata, who he met in the summer of 1996. Now, Stacy was aware that he had just been sentenced in this battery case, but she was in love and she thought he was a changed man. He's really changed, I can tell.
Guys.
It's totally believable, right?
Yeah.
Stacy's parents were not fans.
Oh, yeah.
The parents in these cases are like seeing all of this shit. It's
Good.
almost like parents know things.
Yeah, right?
What?
I
Who
know.
knew?
Sometimes.
So they were not fans of his, and they had found some things out on their own about his past and about how many times he had been like charged and stuff.
Yeah.
And they were urging her to leave him. Eventually, Palczynski goes to Stacy, confesses everything as far as like how many times he's been charged and all of the stuff in his past. Then he's like, we need to start taping your parents' phone calls because I need to know how much they know about me, because if they know too much, we might have to like take care of them.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, because he realizes that Stacy
that's
is
a
like
threat.
getting this information from her parents. Like,
Right.
oh, well,
So he's
clearly,
like, let me just cut it off at the source.
yeah, because he is just assuming nobody is smart enough to look into his background. They're just going to
Right.
trust whatever he's saying. So
Narcissist.
Yeah. So he's like, we need to start tapping their phone. His mood swings start showing up and getting worse and worse. And like many times before, he starts becoming controlling. He starts beating Stacy on more than one occasion. He was still doing this creeping from the bushes things. By the way, after all of this ended with Gary and Michaela, Gary pulled all the bushes out of their...
Hell yeah, Gary.
Every single bush on the property was
like,
gone.
nope.
Yeah.
That was smart.
Yeah. So he's hiding in the bushes, doing this bushes thing to the Coladas. And the neighbors actually notice, and they tell the Coladas this, like, do you realize that there's this guy? Because he was like...
Is that your landscaper?
He would
or-
like park down the street and then like stand on the corner in the neighborhood and then creep over to their house and hide in the bushes.
No.
And they're like, do you realize this guy is doing this?
So weird.
So they had noticed.
Yeah.
And they're trying to take care of it internally. They try to tell their daughter that she's in an abusive relationship.
Yeah.
And it caused a lot of tension in their relationship, as it probably would.
Right.
They ask Palczynski to stay away. He says no. Finally, the Coladas file a no contact petition, something that ended up not being needed thanks to Palczynski going to jail for violating his probation after getting convicted in the Michaela Osborne case.
Well, there you go.
So it takes a little bit for the system to catch up, right? The Michaela Osborne case caused a parole violation on the federal weapons charges, or not on the federal weapons charges, on the other one, whatever the other one was. So he gets sentenced to 3 years in jail.
Wow.
While he's in jail, Palczynski tried to continue his relationship with Stacy, who thought he was her soulmate.
Oh, Stacy.
But after she found out that so on the other hand, he was going around and was like, yeah, I'm dating all these girls. This one's just like another notch on my belt,
And she was
another
like,
notch
"Oh,
on my
what?
bedpost. Yeah.
Girl?
She finds this out and is like, he was telling people the relationship was a big joke. And yeah. She wrote to Palczynski breaking off the relationship. Shortly after, Stacy began getting harassed by Palczynski, who would follow her. He would have people follow her to and from work and leave notes on her car
so
and do
scary.
like hang up calls. So she like answered and nobody was there and they just hang up. But like all the time.
Jesus.
But once Palczynski was released from prison in June 1998, left Stacy behind, just like everybody else.
Yep.
Moves on to his next thing.
Yep.
In the summer of 1998, Palczynski met 20-year-old Tracy Whitehead, the first adult-aged person.
Right.
Over 18. Yeah.
Wow.
I know. So he meets 20-year-old Tracy Whitehead. And again, Tracy knew about some of his past. She knew that he had gone to jail for assault and that he had some mental health struggles.
Tracy, no.
But she, when he said she was different, and you're different than all the other girls, I never hurt you. She believed him. This would also be actually Palczynski's longest relationship.
Yeah.
It lasted about 18 months before things finally, before shit hits the fan. Yeah. But over the course of their relationship, there were times when Palczynski became very abusive, ranging from taunting insults to beating her on more than one occasion. There was one sort of final big argument between the two of them when Palczynski, I don't know if it was, it's entirely likely that it was true,
right.
but tells Tracy, I've been cheating on you. I've been cheating on you with whoever.
Wow.
And while she gets upset, she's storming out. While she storms out, she's like, well, I've been cheating on you too, which he's like, fucking no way. Yeah. So she's like, I've been cheating on you too. Tracy went to a bar, calls him from the bar to rub it in. By the way, I've been cheating with this person and blah, 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 to taunt him because she was so pissed. But when she returns home, he had pulled all of her stuff out. It was thrown all around the apartment, some of it destroyed. Yep. So she saved up her money for a couple of weeks and then decided to sign a lease on a new apartment. She's like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. However, there was a week gap between when the apartment would be available. So she did not want to stay there for another week.
Right.
So instead, she ends up staying with a coworker so she could kind of get out of this violent situation, which is good for you, girl.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good for you. She does all this while Palczynski's at work. She goes home, she packs all her things and leaves. So he comes home and she's gone.
Yep.
Palczynski went into a rage and finds Tracy at this coworker's place. After some intense questioning, Palczynski pulled Tracy inside by her hair. Once inside, he began to beat her and then told her to call into work to let them know that she was not coming back to work. She was at work and saw him and ran to this coworker's house to hide. So when he called, luckily the coworker that answered is the one she had been staying with, who was aware of her situation.
She was like, hey, girl.
Yeah. So she called her and said, hey, I'm not coming back. And she asked yes or no questions.
Smart.
And Tracy was able to indicate, yes, you need to call police.
Yeah.
She was like, do you need me to call police? And she just said yes. She was able to answer yes or no questions. So
what a good friend.
I know. This is the thing. I'm like, everybody pretty much did what they should do in these situations.
Man.
Yeah. Fuck the system, man. Yeah.
The whole damn system is wrong.
So they call police, who go to the residence. Palczynski's arrested. He's released the next day on bail. A few days after he was arrested, Palczynski shows up at Tracy's work begging to talk to her, and she's refusing. Now, at the time, Tracy was on her way to Gloria and George Shank's apartment where she had been staying.
Right.
Until her place was ready. This is all still within the week before she moved into her own place.
Poor girl.
I know. So she goes there. She'd been home for a few hours. They were watching TV. Palczynski shows up at the house armed with guns, demanding Tracy leave with him. When she didn't answer, Palczynski shot Gloria and George, killing them.
Oh my God.
Palczynski then dragged Tracy by the feet out of the apartment. Her screaming alerted a neighbor who attempted to intervene, but was also shot by Palczynski. So he kidnaps Tracy.
Oh my God.
Puts her into his mom's van and drives out to some nearby woods where he beats her and threatens her. She then leads her through the woods to this vacant camper where he rapes her, and then they stay there for the night. Because now he's got guns. She's too afraid.
Right. Where's she gonna go? They're in the woods.
Right. Yeah. So
Oh
it
my
just
God.
it's like
my heart's like pounding out of my chest.
escalated so quickly. I know, this is crazy.
Oh my God, poor Tracy.
The next morning, in a weird turn of events, Paul Chinsky, so they stay in this camper, and then he takes this blanket from the camper outside and makes this like bed on the ground outside.
Okay.
And then he proposes to her the next morning. So like it seemed like his rage had calmed down. I'm sure this was a regret cycle.
Probably.
And now he's worried, did I go too far? Am I going to lose her? Well, I can't lose her if she's going to get married to me.
Right.
So he proposes to her, puts the ring on her finger. She does say yes to placate him.
Well, right. He was
like,
probably pointing a gun at her at the same time.
she did. Honestly, she went along with a lot of this, and it was a smart move.
Yeah.
To just...
What else could she do?
Yeah.
You don't want to make him mad.
Yeah. And it did buy her definitely some time.
Yeah.
They eventually needed to find food, right? So the two of them, they go into town where Paul Chinsky steals a car. They ditched the one car that they stole to steal a different car. This time, in an attempt to like intimidate the person in this car, he shoots off his gun. He doesn't shoot it at the person, but he shoots it off. Unfortunately, the bullet ricocheted into 36-year-old Jennifer Lynn McDonnell, who was pregnant at the time. She also had a 2-year-old daughter, unfortunately killing her, and I believe the baby did not survive.
No.
From there, they got food at a McDonald's before going to a hotel for the night. They go to the hotel. They turn on the TV. He's fucking all over it.
Right.
All over it. Both Paul Chinsky and Tracy realize that there is this manhunt thanks to this carnage. He was literally just not cleaning up. He just left everything.
No impulse control.
Yeah. Shoots these people in the apartment. Shoots the guy outside the apartment. Leaves. Shoots. I don't think that he had intended to kill somebody during the carjacking.
But he didn't try to cover it up.
No. And when Tracy realized, oh, now this woman is dead, now that's 4 murders in the span, very much a spree killing.
Right. He's just chasing the dragon. He's just going from one thing to the next.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Paul Chinsky, they see this on the news and they're like, fuck, we got to get out of here. Well, Paul Chinsky's like, fuck, we got to get out of here.
Yeah.
By the time they realize this and walk out to the parking lot, police were already there.
Right, of course.
Tracy runs towards the police and Paul Chinsky runs away from the police.
Right.
So he escapes and he will be on the run for another 9 days before he shows up again. But Tracy was able to get to the police.
Oh my goodness.
Now, during this time, Paul Chinsky was making his way back to the Baltimore area via carjacking. He just kept like carjacking people. And Tracy had been placed in a hotel. Originally, her location was not disclosed, right? But after everything unfolded, it was. So she was at like a Holiday Inn under 24-hour surveillance because there seems to be this pattern, right? Of Paul Chinsky returning to handle things that he was forced to go to jail for.
I'm scared.
Knowing the police... So the police realized this. They were like, okay, all of this happened with Tracy. We think he might be going back to her house in Baltimore.
Right.
They start setting up perimeters on all the major roadways in the area. He somehow seemed to break through one of these barriers somehow. And on March 17th, 2000... he went to the home of Tracy's mom, Lynn Whitehead, and her boyfriend, Andrew McCord, and their 12-year-old son, Bradley McCord.
Oh, no.
Not realizing who this man was or, like, what he was doing there, Bradley, the young boy, let him in.
Oh, no.
Lets him in the house. Big mistake because Paul Chinsky was armed to the teeth, multiple guns. He was at the end of his rope, and he... begins a standoff that would last almost 4 days total. Still one of the longest standoffs by a single man in like history.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, at least in U.S. history. So Paul Chinsky takes the family hostage, occasionally firing his gun, I imagine, wildly into the air.
Probably.
Sometimes he was just like firing out of the house at
who knows what.
Whatever. They talk about he had flattened the tire on one of the police trucks that was like kind of nearby. Police immediately evacuated the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Because this was like a residential area.
Right. So they're like, everybody get out of the way.
Yeah. They evacuate everybody. They send the residents to this nearby elementary school. But obviously nobody realizes this is going to last for 4 days, right?
Right.
So they're there. But like as time is going on, people are becoming more agitated. They're like, what the fuck is happening? Like,
Right.
why have police not solved this yet? They were receiving a lot of criticism about their handling. You're gonna hate this next part.
Oh, God.
If you didn't already hate all of this already.
God.
There was this inner perimeter set up by authorities, but again, like after a couple of days of being stuck in this elementary school, some people started to break through the perimeter. My assumption would be to go to their houses to get stuff. All these people were arrested.
Oh my God.
A nearby house was taken over by the Baltimore County Tactical Squad to monitor the hostage situation and help with somewhat failing negotiations.
Right.
The house had a dog in it that kept barking, and so they shot it.
Oh.
I know. That was the part I thought you were going to hate, which is like they were telling residents, like, we can't get your pets out. Like, this is not, like we're in the, but like, I don't know. I would have sued the police if I were
Me too.
them
Police
because
kill a lot of dogs.
I know.
Police kill a lot of people's pets.
Yeah.
Not good.
So this is all happening, and this causes a lot of criticism for the police later. Like they're kind of
From
handling
me.
of from everybody. Okay, so the only demand that Palczynski ever made to police was to speak to Tracy. He's like, I just want to talk to Tracy. But authorities were worried that if they granted this request, that he would kill everyone when he got what he wanted, or worse, kill everyone to force Tracy to listen to it on the phone, which is like one final act of torture and control, right?
Absolutely.
Like, I thought that's just wild to me, but
I think they're right to worry about that.
Oh
This
yeah,
guy's
for sure.
Fucking sick.
And if that's the only thing
In a
that he's
bad way.
demanding, you never go into a hostage negotiation automatically just giving them everything they demand.
No,
especially if
because
it's
then
one
what do you
thing.
have?
Right. So this stretches on for days, and the adults in the house finally are like, they decide to take matters into their own hands.
Okay.
So they use some Xanax they have in the house. They drug a glass of iced tea.
Clever.
And they give it to Palczynski. Because they're just like surviving in the house, eating, drinking, whatever, the four of them.
Just trying not to get in his way, I'm sure.
Right. Once he had fallen asleep, Andrew, the boyfriend, went out the front window, making a ton of noise in the process. They were like so worried that he was going to wake up. But even with all the noise and shit that he was making, he did not wake up.
Wow.
He was followed shortly by Lynn out of the same window. What's the problem, Rachel?
Put the kid through the window first.
What's the problem?
Put it through the window first.
No, how about we just leave him?
Oh my God. Why?
They leave the 12-year-old boy behind. Now Lynn and Andrew received very, very heavy criticism about this in the days that followed from everyone. Literally from everyone. They say that they were worried that if Bradley were to wake up and make a bunch of noise while they were trying to escape, that it would send Palczynski into a rage and he would have killed all of them.
No.
So instead, they were like, it's better to have the adults escape and let police handle getting the child.
Yeah. They've done a great job so far.
Well,
because you're all still trapped in the house.
Here's the thing.
They just didn't like that kid.
I'm not condoning this choice.
Right.
I think the drugging with the Xanax was brilliant.
Super smart.
It was brilliant. But so this is a bad choice. It was a bad choice. Let me just say that right off the bat. However, it had probably maybe an unintended side effect of now the child is the only one in the house. Police and SWAT teams were like, oh, fuck, we need to get in there now because now he's the only one left.
Right.
More urgent when it's just a child.
Absolutely.
So not a great
kind of working out.
Right. Not a great decision, but it did sort of speed up the timeline for police as far as actually physically going in.
Absolutely.
So they send in the SWAT team for the boys' safety. When they break into the house, it was reported that Palczynski was actually asleep on his guns, which I just imagine like on a pile of weapons.
Just cuddling one.
Yeah, right. all Xanaxed out sleeping. So
Zanny the nanny.
when they break into the house, Palczynski wakes up. He's a little startled. The first thing he does is reach for a gun. And when he did, police shot him 27 times, killing him. Bradley makes it out safe.
Good.
Which is all good.
And probably went to therapy. He's like, can I just be put in foster care?
God.
They literally left me here.
I don't know how you would grapple with literally being left behind during a hostage situation by your parents.
Oh my God. That makes me so
Does that make you feel better about your parenting choices?
a little bit.
Because I can tell you've made better choices than that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're doing great. You're doing great. You've not left your kids behind in a hostage situation. So there's that. It's pretty good.
I did it. Mom of the year.
So an autopsy was performed after his death that did not show any drugs in his system other than the Xanax that they'd used.
I'm not surprised.
There was also another woman charged with purchasing weapons for Palczynski, which is how he got all these guns. And he was a convicted felon.
Right. Can't do that.
Yeah. And the victims' families were awarded $450,000 in a civil lawsuit as a result of the woman who purchased the guns.
Right.
I'm pretty sure she's the one who got that fine.
Yeah.
In an interesting turn of events, even another interesting turn of events.
Oh my God.
Palczynski was still alive. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, he was fully dead. 27 gunshots. Homie's pretty dead.
You can't kill the boogeyman.
Yeah, right. No, so Andrew McCord, the boyfriend who had escaped first, leaving his child behind.
Dick.
So he attempted to collect a $10,000 reward from Crime Stoppers. Because he was like, well, I was the first one in the house to call 911 and let police know where Palczynski was.
Shut up.
It was me, which ultimately led to his apprehension.
Nuh-uh.
But because he called the police instead of Metro Crime Stoppers, they're like, we don't have to pay anything out.
Loser. I mean, his son was like, fucking idiot.
Which is also like, well, duh, of course you call the police, but I love that that's the technicality that they use.
Me too.
Like, well, you didn't call us and let us call the police. There was also an attempt by Andrew and Lynn to sue Baltimore County Police, saying that they hadn't done anything. Like, they knew that he was on loose and they hadn't done anything to protect them and their family before they were taken hostage.
Which is fair.
The only issue is that they had gone to the family and offered many forms of protection.
Oh, and they were like, no, we're good.
Including increased patrols, 24/7 surveillance, like a car parked outside their house.
And they turned it down.
An officer staying in their home, all of which they declined.
Wow.
Yeah, and so the suit was like, it was either dropped or it was dismissed, one of the two. But they were like, the police were like, no, we did though.
Yeah,
we did come to you and be like, you want help? And you said, nah.
This one's on you.
And now you're saying, give me money?
Also, remember how you left your kid? I remember.
I just think it's
I'm not giving you anything.
And there's part of me that's like, okay, like I said, that was heavily criticized, like that decision. And I'm like, so do they see they're getting criticized about that and then look at these like lawsuits and reward money and stuff and be like, you know what? They already hate us. Let's just go for broke and like
really
try all the terrible
what I'm
stuff.
Wondering. Oh my God.
Because none of those were good. I mean, it was very clearly an effort to like profit off of the situation.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? But like
just do interviews like everybody else does.
Right. But also like, honestly, there's part of me that's like, I could see you suing the police for not intervening in it. I mean, it would be a hard case because the hostage situation is so tenuous, but like,
right, but I can see that.
That more than like they didn't offer us protection when they're like, well, no, here's the notes of when we called you and offered you protection. No. Yeah. So anyway, that is the story of Joseph Palczynski.
That's crazy.
And the hostage situation. I know.
Whoa, that was a good one.
Thank you.
Okay, so hostage situations.
Hostage
situations.
Hostage girl summer. No?
Yeah, hostage girl summer.
That's not a thing. I know we're not doing Brad Summer anymore.
Yeah, no.
We're in the new era of...
Yeah, true.
Like Charlie Summer? No, what's her name? Whatever her real name
Charlie
is.
XCX?
Yeah.
Is that her name?
Did you not see the announcement thing?
No.
Okay, well, it's fine. It was at Coachella. It doesn't
I'm
really
elderly.
matter. I also don't really listen to Charlie XCX.
I don't either. Yeah, I don't either.
I know it's a controversial take. Wani hates it. He wants me to get into it, and I'm just like,
She's good. It's just not really the genre I go for.
No.
But she's good and she's
Yeah.
cute.
yeah, she's fine.
Yeah. Stop
Just fine.
skiing, I feel. So you picked hostage takers. Now, initially, when I was looking into this case, this topic,
Yeah.
most of them were like big government cases.
Right.
Involving wartime scenarios and like soldiers.
I was trying to avoid all of that
Me
because that
too.
is very common
Absolutely.
in international politics, we'll
Yeah.
say.
Yeah. I wanted to go like a little more residential.
Yes.
I guess, if that's the right,
Same,
if
girl.
that's the right
Same.
term.
Yeah. A little more domestic.
Yeah, there's a good one.
Yeah.
Domesticity.
Yeah.
This led me to, well, Alabama and the Alabama bunker hostage crisis.
Okay.
Have you heard of this before?
It sounds familiar,
Yeah.
but I can't recall any specifics. So let's say no.
Okay. It's pretty crazy.
Okay.
Now,
I'm going to tell you. Okay, let me give predictions off the bat. I'm
Okay,
thinking it's giving very sovereign citizen vibes. It's giving very don't touch my gun vibes. It's giving. That's my prediction. That's my
I love
prediction.
that.
Thank
I
you.
love that.
We'll
so
see how
far.
right I am.
We'll put
but
pins in it.
Yes. Okay.
Now, as a mom, this particular case makes my heart hurt a little bit because unlike the types of cases I listed before, the victim in this case was not a soldier or even an adult.
Yeah.
5-year-old Ethan Gilman's life, I know so little, would hang in the balance between the best minds of the FBI and a crazed kidnapper who believed he was on some sort of important mission.
Oh, poor baby.
I know. Before we get into this tale, I wanted to know what kind of person would abduct someone for their own twisted ideals. Again, separate from like people doing it in wartime.
Right.
Like, why would like a random person take a hostage?
Yeah.
According to the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit, the profiles of most hostage takers usually fit into at least one of 5 categories. The categories can overlap, but
Okay.
these are like their 5 like profiles, or this is what type of people will take hostages.
Okay.
Number 1 is the antisocial personality type.
Okay.
Characteristics include lack of empathy, impulsivity, and irresponsibility in life and in personal relationships.
Okay. That sounds like my guy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think your guy fits into quite a few of these.
Great. Awesome. It was the
that guy.
perfect. What am I looking for? Mix? I don't know.
Yeah. Juxtaposition. Yeah. Whatever. 2, emotional instability. This type will lose self-importance in view of a higher goal. So they're like, my
Okay.
life doesn't matter. It's only the cause. The cause that may or may
Okay.
not be real or relevant to
Yes.
their life.
Okay.
They are unable to participate successfully in society, with many experiencing trouble with keeping a job as well as socially. So you can
Okay.
kind of see how 1 and 2 are related, but they're not exactly the same.
Yeah.
3, the seriously mentally ill, categorized here as being like schizophrenic.
Okay.
This would include a history of delusions, paranoia, social withdrawal, typical schizophrenic stuff. Although not all schizophrenic people are hostage takers.
But it's more extreme mental illness. You're not
Yes.
taught. It's not lumping
You're
in
not
like
in
personality
reality.
disorders.
Absolutely. This
It's
is
like
where
that
like there's a voice telling you to do
psychosis
things.
type
Yes,
of. Okay.
Absolutely. 4 is also mental illness, but it's in the depression category. So the typical, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Typical symptoms include loss of pleasure in normally delightful activities, exhaustion or lack of mental energy, weight loss, and sleep problems are common warning signs in this case.
Okay.
And then number 5 is substance intoxication.
Yeah.
This can, of course, depending on all sorts of factors, including what are they taking, how long have they been on it, what other stuff do they have
Right.
going on in their big old noggin,
Yeah.
can make these perpetrators even harder to predict due to unstable behavior and rapidly changing emotions.
I wonder. I'm sure that includes too if they were on something and are not anymore.
Yes,
like a
withdrawal from
detoxing,
that.
withdrawal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I
Can
think
cause
they-
some psychosis-y things.
Yes. And that's the thing is like you can have many of these profiles
Yeah.
fit you or just one. I thought that was
interesting.
really interesting.
Yeah. That all tracks though. That all makes
Right?
a lot of sense because it is very sort of unstable
Yes.
personality types, all of them.
And you were going over that earlier, where it really is, when it's like a personal crime, it's a desperation crime.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't have anything else to bargain,
Yes.
and I want whatever I want. So
Yeah.
I'm going to put other people's lives
Yeah.
directly in danger.
Yeah, yeah.
Dick move. Dick
Damn,
move.
I could work for the FBI.
Right? I'm waiting for it, girl.
You already got my list in my browsing history. Just call me.
Smart. I found this super interesting to read about, as again, I usually think of hostage situations to involve wartime. So it's interesting that so many different possible profiles exist.
Yeah.
So let's see
Yeah.
how many boxes we can push this guy
Oh, geez.
into.
Okay.
Jimmy Lee Dykes, age 65, had what one could describe as a troubled life. Just like your guy, a lot's not super known about his upbringing. It's just known that it wasn't good.
Okay.
You know, he would go through.
There wasn't like one precipitating.
No,
Like
it
mine
just-
was like, he definitely had a head injury, but this sounds
yeah,
like,
yeah.
okay. More abusive.
Right. I think a lot of it just wasn't
Yeah.
recorded. It was the time period as well. He would grow up to be a Vietnam veteran.
Okay.
Who suffered after the war. I'm just going to assume he had PTSD. A lot of his symptoms line up with that, although he was never formally diagnosed. He would go through bouts of hard times as an adult. He would be homeless off and on throughout his life, living in his car for a period of 2 years.
yeah.
According to his former friend and neighbor, George Arnold, Dykes had, from the outside, kind of an understandable bias against the American government, which isn't uncommon, especially for like veterans who are not being well taken care of.
Yeah. Frankly, especially for, I think, Vietnam veterans.
Absolutely.
There was this huge disconnect between the people who were in the military
Yep.
and the actual running of it from the government side. Like
100%.
that war specific, not saying that hasn't happened, but like that war specifically was really contentious between.
Yeah, a lot of them really
Yeah.
got fucked over.
Yeah.
Which is very sad. And which is, again, sort of like you can see how he would be mad.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But his feelings went down a dark and twisted path into true insanity. See, Dykes was into betting on local dog races, which
Oh,
wasn't
geez.
all that uncommon for the area. At the
Yeah.
time, it's like very southern.
Where was
thing.
he? Oh, Alabama, you said. Okay.
Yep. And he was in a sort of an impoverished area, so
Yeah.
it wasn't uncommon to go and like bet on the races.
So all of Alabama. No. That's alienate a whole section of our country. A whole
Stay
section of
classy, Alabama.
Yeah.
So he wasn't like a normal, like he'd go there and like, oh, you know, whatever. He became convinced that he could predict the patterns of the races and became obsessive about it. He had boxes and boxes of records and statistics, some things that he had like printed off, some things that he had written down in sort of a manic frenzy.
I imagine like the Always Sunny Charlie.
I
with
literally
the,
wrote that down.
Did you?
Yes.
With like the pointing and the
pointing all of
connections.
the
and
yarn connecting
Yeah.
to things.
Yeah.
It's all connected. It's all connected.
That's exactly what I imagine.
If someone in your life is putting up a map of something or being like, look at all these things they connect, they are having trouble.
Yeah.
Help them.
Yeah.
That's not normal.
Yes.
That's a red flag.
Ask them how they're doing.
That's a manic
Be like, is
phase.
everything okay with you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that can start to lead to dangerous delusions. And it did. Dykes became convinced that not only was the government fixing the local dog races, they were out to get him specifically. This is a direct quote from his friend from earlier, George Arnold, who like lived in the same neighborhood as him and like kind of knew him, would sometimes invite him over like to eat and stuff because he was obviously down on his luck. This is a quote from him. He thought the government was working with the mafia to control the dogs. Like, if you bet 10,000 on a dog and it was about to win, they would hit a microchip they put in the dog to shock them and slow them down so you wouldn't get your money.
You know, listen, I was on board
Right.
a little bit with
Right.
the government working with the mafia.
Absolutely.
But as soon as you said microchip, I was like, I'm
you
out.
lost me.
You lost me at microchip.
I literally wrote like that exact thing down.
Yeah.
That's our
Because I
brain-
could see that. Like, the government has been involved in weird ways
Correct.
with the underground criminal world.
Yeah. Has the government worked with the mafia? Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean,
extensively.
I would say probably more in other countries, but definitely in ours.
Yeah, it's
like,
both. Yep.
Like, you know what I mean? So like, that's not that far-fetched.
Microchips in the dogs.
That is
No.
far-fetched. And this, wait, what year? This was in when? Around what time period?
At this point, like the 2000s.
Okay, so like that would have like microchips and shit would have been not common, but
after this was, he believed this all his life. So this was probably like 80s and 90s around when it would have been totally implausible.
Yeah.
Like, what's a microchip? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The crime happened the crime that we're talking about today happened in the 2000s.
Okay.
So this was just sort of like his period of delusion.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's exactly what I said. Like, our government meddling where they shouldn't, fair.
Yes.
The government working
Not
with
that weird.
organized crime, fair.
Not that weird.
Microchips in the dogs, no.
Yeah,
I wish I could
weirder.
put a microchip in my dog so that she'd stop thinking that every motorcycle is out to personally kill her. It's so sad. It's actually really cute. She's only 26 pounds. She's little.
Yeah.
But when we're on a walk and she hears a motorcycle, she will put me behind her. And like, she's just shaking, like guarding me. It is so sweet. But I'm like, baby, it's just
That's
a motorcycle.
so cute.
Our neighbor
Yeah.
has one. So she's always just like, oh. I'm like, no, please. It's okay.
No, please, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Poor baby.
Yeah.
But there are no microchips in the dog. That's not real. This area of Alabama in which he lived, the community numbered at about 2,300 people at the time, so pretty small, was very close-knit, and some people considered Dykes to just be essentially like the wacky neighbor, but like pretty harmless, especially at the time where he was homeless.
Yeah.
It was just sort of like, he's just a kind of a crazy guy who needs help, you know?
Yeah.
He was eventually able to secure property. He moved into a nearby like housing project, but this stability did nothing to improve his rapidly failing mental health. In fact, he became somewhat of a public nuisance. We've all had that neighbor, but he was like to the extreme.
Oh, God. Yeah.
He would yell and scream at local children, threatening them with violence if they were to like come onto his property. A lot of it seemed to be like almost like a dog guarding food, like protective behavior over his property. So like kids crossing through his yard, he would lose his shit. Police were called many times because people were like, yeah, he told my kid he would kill them. Like, you can't really do that.
Yeah.
Can't do that, sir.
That's going to be me one day. Not the killing threats, but just like get off my lawn. Having a corner lot and seeing a kid cut the corner and be like, stay on the sidewalk. I worked hard for this grass. You didn't.
See, I'm going to be the neighborhood like friendly witch who's just like, hello, fresh cookies, but like with love. You know?
But not in the weird way.
Not
with
in the
drugs
weird
them.
way. No, I'm not gonna like murder anyone.
Yeah.
But like, you know, I'm gonna be like, is anyone bothering
not in
you?
the weird trying to steal children here, have some cookies, but in like the friendly neighbor trying to here have some cookies.
I already know I'm gonna be that person. He also, so he lived by the road and would get upset because he thought people were speeding past his property, which again, it's a housing
like
project.
on purpose?
Right.
Okay.
Like being annoying.
Like that?
Right. Like what we
They
just
know
heard
we're
outside.
recording.
Yeah,
Why did they
God damn
drive
it.
past this house?
Our very famous podcast. Don't you know we're recording?
Get off my lawn.
So he like installed a speed bump on the road so that
Like
people
just
could-
took it upon
Yeah,
himself?
Yeah. Not calling the city, not being
the
like, hey
worst
guys.
neighbor.
And right. And also, again, it's a housing project. There were not
Yeah.
people speeding through. It was like a residential area.
the worst
So
neighbor
he's just
ever.
crazy.
Yeah.
Right. There was an awful incident, I hate even talking about this, where a neighbor's dog wandered onto his property and he beat it to death with a metal pipe.
Oh, God.
So police were called for that. Police were called for the
Yeah.
speed bump. Actually, the day before the incident I'm about to describe, he had been due in court for allegedly firing a gun at his neighbors.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
You cannot be firing a gun in a residential neighborhood.
Yeah, they frown on that.
It's frowned upon. Even in Alabama.
Yeah,
it is
they
frowned
do
upon.
have some guidelines,
Some.
very loose laws.
One, do not fire a gun in a residential neighborhood.
That's the only law.
That could be the only law.
Other
You
than that,
broke
you're
it.
good.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so now we're coming up to the incident in question.
Okay.
So he was very protective of his property, and you would assume that it was because, you know, he was just like a crazy guy.
Yeah.
You know, and especially if you don't have property, once you get it, you're very protective over it. That makes sense.
Right.
But he was also doing some stuff on his property that he shouldn't have been doing, which included digging a fucking bunker. Yeah.
This makes me think of that woman, the woman who was trying to build a tunnel under people's houses.
Yeah. I followed that on
last
TikTok.
year.
Did you guys see that on TikTok? It was so funny. At first, when I saw it, I was like, that's kind of cool. Then I was like, oh, are you trying to go under people's houses?
Other people's houses.
And then I
yeah.
was like, oh, you don't even have a degree?
No.
No. No.
She's just got a shovel. That's
A shovel in a
That's all you
dream.
need. That's all you need, a shovel in a dream. Anyway, so he
That's the
builds a
American
bunker, a bunker.
So he takes a long time and he's digging out this like pretty impressive
in his
bunker.
yard?
In
Like
his
in his-
yard.
okay.
Yep, on his property, just digging this bunker out. And people didn't really know what he was doing because of course he's keeping everyone away by being fucking crazy.
Right.
Then one day in 2013, for this child that I mentioned earlier, Ethan, it's just a normal day. He's just
Yeah.
going to kindergarten. He's on his bus. But unfortunately, Dykes would choose his bus to board armed with a Ruger pistol.
Okay.
So he boarded this school bus and he told...
Was it just like the school bus that came around?
Yep.
Like that was
Yep.
the normal route for the bus?
Yep.
And this
just
was the
going
day he
past-
had it?
Yep.
Okay.
So he boarded this bus and he told the driver, he's like, I need 2 children. I need 2 boys to come with me as my hostages. Because I'm on this like mission, see? You know, I'm like on a mission.
Right.
He was
on
like,
the mission.
no. So 66-year-old Charles Albert Poland Jr. was like, no. I
Good for
disagree.
you.
You're not taking these kids.
Good for you.
And he even, so he's arguing with this guy, trying to get him off the bus. And he's like, if you have to shoot somebody, shoot me. Don't shoot these kids.
Yeah.
Like, so he was this amazing, he blocked the aisle of the bus.
Good. Good guy.
I know. And unfortunately, Dykes killed him. He shot him 5 times.
Jesus.
Yep.
I mean, he applause to him because he
I
was
know. He really
doing what he should have done.
I'll talk about it after,
Yeah.
but the town really honored
Good.
his life
Good.
a lot.
Good.
They gave credit where credit was due, absolutely.
Yeah. Good.
For some reason, it's not clear why he abandoned the idea of taking 2 boys and ended up just taking 5-year-old Ethan Gilman. Took him with, left the bus, and left the bus where it was, just left the door open.
Yeah.
There's this really sad passage about the children who loved the bus driver and had a close relationship with him. They had to step over his body.
Oh my God.
And it was actually, the police were able to respond fairly quickly. And the reason for that is that a 13-year-old child on the bus, as soon as the guy opened the door, called the cops.
Oh,
So
good.
he had the phone like on his lap, like, y'all better fucking
So at least it was a time during
here."
cell phones.
Yeah. Oh, it was not 13, excuse me. It was 15-year-old
Oh.
Trey Watts.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So he was able to call, get the police there. Now,
I mean-
before they were able to retrieve the child, they had both disappeared into his spooky little bunker.
Ugh.
Yeah. So, but they were able to like make sure all the rest of the children were safe. And
But also, there's something. I mean, unless you count the bunker as like a secondary location,
Right.
But there's something to be said about. At least he wasn't at a secondary location
Absolutely.
where he like ran off. Like that would have been so much harder to find them if he just
at
like
least they knew where
went
he
to
was.
the woods or started driving across country or
Right.
Yeah.
And luckily, it seemed like he wanted to talk because shortly after getting into the bunker, he called 911. Dykes called 911 and was like, all right, let's open up these negotiations.
Okay.
Communicating with him.
He started the okay.
He called. Yep.
He was like, here are my demands.
Yep.
Okay.
They had like so this was, let me describe the bunker. So it was a 6 by 8 foot underground bunker.
Okay. That's not that big.
No, it's not. It's really small. And they
Yeah.
had he equipped it with like a ventilation pipe that was like PVC.
Okay.
So that's how they communicated a lot.
So
which
just
is
a pipe
pretty
out of the
funny.
ground?
Yeah, I'm just imagining. You
Sick.
remember at like the playground?
You know what? I remember seeing pictures of this.
Yep.
I remember, and it's literally just like
Yep.
like the mailbox and then like a pipe.
Yep. Yep.
So funny. Okay.
Yup.
Okay. I'm with you.
Yep.
So bizarre.
And he's like so gross. He's gross. Like they
Yeah.
were having a lot of trouble communicating with him because he's crazy and his message was never really made clear, which most of the time with these hostage takers, when they have like a message from God or whatever, they want to get out their manifesto.
Yeah.
But he was so disorganized, I don't think that he was able to.
No,
I
he
think
had
that-
not gotten past the
No.
taking a hostage and making
It's like,
demands.
I didn't think I'd
part.
get this far.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know. What can I get?
Yeah.
Now, at first, because you said in yours that was one of the longest hostage situations by a single person.
Yes.
This was longer, lasting, I think, a little bit less than 7 days.
Yeah.
And at first, they were able to pass things through the pipe for the child. So little Ethan had ADHD and Asperger's, which like same, gang.
Yeah.
And they were able to pass medication through for him.
Okay.
And they
They
even
just stuck it down the pipe.
Yep. And he allowed that. He was like, sure, give him his, and I'll give it to him. And
Yeah.
he did at first. He took care of the child. They passed along, I think his parents gave him a coloring book and some crayons. Oh, poor little boy. Because
my
he was
God.
probably
But he-
scared shitless.
I'd say he's probably bored shitless.
Probably. He's like, you got anything to
It's
do
like,
in here?
cool, I'm in this dirt hole underground.
He'd give my kids back. He would not. He'd be like, this is too much.
Also, now this kid is like, well, he just keeps telling me to pee in this corner, so
Yeah,
I guess
really.
I'm just going to keep peeing in this
I'm
corner.
just gonna- my
Yeah.
kids would be all over that. They'd be like, I already
Done.
peed in this corner.
Done.
Yeah, done so. I'll shake your hand on that. There was this whole thing about like, because he would talk to the child, he would help the child. He had like some food and water down there and would feed the child and kind of tend to the child. But that he was also, because they could hear him through the fucking tube and they had placed like microphones and stuff.
Yeah.
They could hear him being like, okay, so if anything happens to me, this is how you're going to detonate all of the bombs I have down here. So he's trying to train him like Batman and Robin.
Weird.
Yeah, I'm like, come on.
Awkward.
Get the hell out of here. And
Yeah,
I'm sure
but
the kid was
also
like,
as a-
yeah, I'm going to do that.
As a 5-year-old kid, you just kind of, you said he was 5,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
5.
I mean, you just kind of do what the adults tell you to do.
And that, I'm sure he was like, yeah, sure, mister. Yep,
He's older than me,
whatever.
so I'm sure he knows better. You know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
poor kid.
They had photos of the space like after this was all done. He had sealed all the cracks in the bunker like with caulk. It must have been so like stuffy. He had 2 bunk beds.
That's wild.
Ugh, super, super gross. On February 4th, 2013 at 3:12 p.m., the FBI breached the roof of the bunker.
Okay.
So they obviously had left it for so long because they were worried for the safety of the boy. Obviously, Dykes had a gun in there. They were very
and it's an
scared.
awkward place to get into.
Absolutely.
Like, it's
They
not just
were-
like walking into a door.
Something I thought was kind of cool was that the FBI actually, on like a nearby property, they began to construct a bunker like that was similar so
Okay.
that they could run practice drills
how
on how to get
funny.
him out.
Interesting.
Isn't that neat? I was like, that's such a good idea.
It is if you have the time to do it.
Right.
It's almost like you need to do that before, but you
Well,
can't
right.
plan for something like this
Luckily,
happening.
I think like I don't even know if they did it underground or if they did it like with materials, but I mean they are the FBI, so I think they could probably like buy an excavator and be like, come.
I
and
mean,
quickly
probably,
dig.
but-
you know, they weren't doing it with spoons in their backyard at midnight.
I mean, probably, but like at the same time, you're talking, you know, a matter of 5 minutes could
Yeah.
mean life or death for
Yeah.
the person inside. So
Right.
like, it's interesting to me that that's how they chose to spend their
Well, you
time.
know, there are
but
more-
He didn't seem like that. I mean,
Violent.
obviously he was unpredictable because he
Right.
had all these weapons and stuff, but he
But
didn't
that
seem
was the
like
thing.
that urgent.
He was taking care of the child.
Yeah, yeah.
But as like the 6th day began, they were noticing because they even had they could see him. They
Yeah.
had like cameras and stuff. They were noticing that he was no longer responding to the child and that he had stopped addressing his needs. He
Yeah.
wasn't taking care of him anymore. And he was starting to get antsy and starting to
Okay.
like wave the gun around a little bit.
Okay.
So they were like,
okay.
it's actually go time right now.
yeah, yeah.
So at 3:12 p.m., they blew the top off the bunker with explosive charges.
Oh, God.
They threw stun grenades into the bunker.
Okay.
Were able to grab the child, and in the ensuing gunfight, which, you know, one pistol against the FBI,
Right.
they killed him real good.
Okay.
The
Damn.
boy was taken to the hospital and was fine.
Oh,
He
good.
didn't have any injuries, and there was a really sweet thing where like one of the police were like visiting him at the hospital, and they were like, he's watching Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and eating pizza and just like laughing, like he's fine. There is this thing.
He's probably
I'm
gonna
sure,
need therapy, but you know.
well, I don't go into it much, but there's this whole sad thing where like after this, he has to end up going into like foster care. There were problems. His mother was on drugs.
Oh God.
And I think she had been okay before he was taken, but then after he was
like a
taken, she
break.
relapsed.
Yeah.
And so he had to go into foster care. He ended
poor
up getting
kid.
adopted. So it seems like he might have had like a couple troublesome years, but then it ended up being okay.
Yeah.
Wherever he is now, I hope that he's doing
I hope
wonderfully.
so.
Because
Yeah,
like really,
that's rough.
like that sucks.
Like just add it to the pile.
Yeah,
of
for real.
things. Yeah.
For real. They did end up discovering like the explosive devices. Like when he said that, I was kind of like, did you really build bombs?
Yeah.
Like, did you? Because a lot of people say that and then they didn't. No, he did.
Yeah.
So they
Honestly,
found
I don't
them.
know that it would have been strictly performative for, because all he knew was that the kid was the one listening.
Right.
Like, I don't know
That's
that he would have
true.
gone to that length if it wasn't real.
I'm a naturally suspicious bitch.
I know. But why waste your time trying to explain bombs to a 5-year-old?
I don't know. Why go to the dog races?
He doesn't even like kids.
That's fair. He does not
like he's
kids.
like yelling at them all the time to get off his lawn. So like,
Why he chose a child.
Yeah,
who's
right.
to say.
yeah.
So his message was obviously primarily anti-government,
Yeah.
but he had no manifesto,
Wow.
no organization. But at like 6 days, it is also one of the longest hostage situations by a single man. The end.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting that he was organized enough to build a bunker, but
Right.
not like get past that step.
Right. And he was like, what do I do now?
Yeah. Yeah. Huh.
And like all of those little boxes I talked about earlier, all those little categories, he fits like almost all of them. Like
Yeah.
you're having delusions. You obviously have antisocial personality disorder and
Right.
emotional instability.
Right.
It never said that he was on drugs or drinking a lot. I don't think that was really a factor. But like all
Yeah.
the other ones, I'm like, check.
Yeah. Right. Huh.
So that must have made it hard for him to deal with because it's like, well, what profile do we go with?
Yeah.
He's just a crazy guy.
You go with the one that you don't. You build
Yeah.
a test bunker.
Right.
And then,
And then you blow it
and
up.
then you blow it up.
the end.
Well, if you need something to listen to while you build a bunker, why not check out this podcast?
Yeah.
We're the Vocal Fries. I'm Carrie.
And I'm Megan.
And we have a podcast about linguistic discrimination.
We talk about language, not being a jerk, not judging people for the way that they speak, and we try to have a good time.
We talk about things like vocal fry, swearing, Southern American English, and prescriptive grammar.
You can find us on iTunes or your favorite podcast app.
All right, friends, that has been our episode this week.
Yeah.
I was going to say a shorty but a goodie, but mine was kind of long. Yeah, no, it was fun.
It's not about the length. It's
about the
motion.
girth? Oh.
Yeah, that too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any final thoughts before we finish up?
No.
Okay. If you enjoyed this episode, you can find more just like this at badtastepodcast.com.
Yeah.
Our sound and editing is by Tiff Fullman. Our music is by Jason Zashevsky, the Enigma. Woo! This has been the Bad Taste Crime Podcast. We will see you in 2 weeks. Goodbye.
Bye.
On the hillsides along the highway.
It was as if a wave of evil washed over this town.
We are all evil in some form or another.